Welcome back to another Pokemon video. This time I'm not doing tabletop content. I've been sick, so I missed out on League last Friday, which I was really upset about, but we're going to be making a video today. We're going to be making some puzzles. Someone requested on the last video that I make a puzzle video, and I haven't made one in a while, so we're going to get into some puzzles today. We're going to be going over whether or not you should use your Regidrago VSTAR power. Lots of people in my coaching sessions ask me, do I use my VSTAR on turn 2? Do I save it? How do I make that decision? So going to be going over that today. We're using the Pokemon Simulator PTCG Sim Online. Shout out Zhao Long for making this thing. I use it all the time. It's great. And here's our Drago list. Pretty standard. It's what I've been using in all my videos. We've got the Halucha in there. After League on Friday, I brought this card back. Otherwise, pretty standard. We got the Jamming Tower. No canceling clone, so a little vulnerable to those control decks. 3 Ionos and the Iron Bundle. So with that in mind, let's get into our first puzzle. In our first puzzle, we're going to be playing a Regidrago mirror. Now in this position, we have our Regidrago all powered up on turn 2. Our opponent used Cleffa, which is a little annoying, but we do have Iron Bundle. The problem is that we don't have any attackers in our discard. So in this spot, would you V-Star? If you V-Star, what are you hoping to V-Star for? How would you kind of position yourselves to use the V-Star? Or would you just not V-Star at all? And would you do something else? You can pause the video here and I'll show the solution. So in this spot, if you really wanted to V-Star, you could Ultra Ball, get probably Gudra, and then you could V-Star. You would guaranteed be able to bring back the Ultra Ball it away, get the Iron Bundle, and that would be your guaranteed turn 2 attack. However, I think that's a bit of an overcommitment. I actually think it's likely that if you got to this spot, you probably made a mistake. I think it'd actually be better to just have your energies split, do something a little more passive here, probably Ultra Ball, something like this, get Cleffa, maybe use your Super Rod, maybe not, and just draw some cards. And then on the next turn of the game, surely, especially with the Iron Bundle, you'll be able to initiate without flipping your V-Star power. I think this only gets punished if your opponent draws Super Hot, probably Prime Catcher, right? If they go Prime Catcher and they don't use their V-Star and they like Gudra your Mew, of course you're in rough shape, but I think that's actually pretty unlikely. Now, my opinion on this situation would probably change if I knew my opponent was playing Iron Bundle, right? Because in this spot, if our opponent's playing Iron Bundle, it's a lot more likely that they're going to be able to find some kind of two prize attack, right? Whether it's just like Gudra into a Drago or maybe they knock something out. It doesn't really matter. If I knew they were playing the bundle, then I would probably just flip my V-Star power, do what I just mentioned, the Ultra Ball for Gudra, V-Star, Ultra Ball it away, get bundle kind of thing, and that'd be pretty good because really the name of the game in this Drago V-Star mirror is just being the first one to attack without flipping your V-Star, and you should be pretty much set. Additionally, I might flip my V-Star power if I know my opponent's playing Alolan Exeggutor. I just think it's really likely here that if our opponent doesn't find Prime Catcher, that they would just go for the coin flip on Alolan Egg. And it seems like a shame to put this game where we have such a strong start down to a coin flip. Like, of course, if they flip the wrong one and they kill the Cleffa, we'll win the game on the spot. But if they flip the right one and they kill something on our bench, we're going to be in really rough shape. So those are kind of the factors I would use to make this decision. But blind, I probably would just go ahead and use the Cleffa and probably diversify my energies if it was possible as well. Just to show you guys why I'm so afraid of using the V-Star in this spot, let's say we do this Ultra Ball play, we grab our Dragapult, or sorry, our Gudra, and then we flip our V-Star. Let's discard 7 random cards. And then we recover some guys. Well, we got to get our Ultra Ball. Maybe we get an E-Switch back. Seems pretty good. We get our guy. We bundle. And we have all of our energies on our dude. And I don't know, we get to punch this Drago for 200 or whatever they decide to give us. There's a lot of things that can be annoying here. For example, they could just like play an Iono, or maybe even not play an Iono. They could like impact us for 200. If they Prime Catcher and like knock out Mew, we're in a really rough spot here. We're down 2 prizes. They could also just, here, let me take a look at their hand. Oh, nice. Give them a really nice hand here. But say they were to just like probably loss impact us here for 200, and then I don't really know what we're doing on our next turn. We're down our V-Star. We probably just end up like knocking out their Drago with like Pult or something. And we like spread some damage, whatever. And then they can just actually start winning the prize trade from here. They could go like bring this up, and then they can like Pult and like set up for a 4 prize play on the next turn. Even if they don't have that, they could just like play an Iono here and use Gudra, right? Like Iono, Gudra, get energies on the guy, maybe bench another Drago. And then in this spot, we have no V-Star. They didn't knock anything out, so we don't have Fez, and we would literally just have to draw Boss off of this Iono to 4, or else we risk losing pace in the game. I guess we could like impact this and then try to pick it up with Phantom Dive, but you can just see how like when these Ionos start getting involved in the late game and your opponent's not killing things, it's really hard to draw cards. And with Gudra, they can put you in a lot of spots where you're forced to have Boss, and you really don't want to be in the spot where you get 4 random cards and you have to find a Gust, or else you're going to fall behind in the game. So I think I really value just conserving the V-Star and using Cleffa in spots like this. In our next puzzle, we have a bit of a similar situation, but it's in a very different matchup, right? Instead of playing the Dragomir, we're playing against Charizard here. We've gone first, and we've had a pretty good turn 2. Our opponent had a pretty good turn 1 as well. Looks like they got the Rotom down and Poffin, and pretty much what I consider their ideal turn 1 board to be. Minus a Manaphy, I guess, if they play Manaphy, but let's assume there's no Manaphy. And on our turn 2, we play our research, we discard Dragapult, which is what we want to be doing. And the downside here is that we haven't found an E-switch. So in this situation, would you flip your V-Star, try to find that E-switch, or would you do something else? Again, in this situation, I just don't think it's necessary to flip your V-Star here. If you flip your V-Star here and you whiff the E-switch, you're in a terrible, terrible spot. And even if you flip your V-Star and hit the E-switch, I'm not convinced you win the game on the spot. So let's say, for example, you like flip your V-Star, you hit the E-switch, yippee, you knock out like the Charmander and the Pidgey, and then your opponent like goes Candy Charizard, maybe hits an Unfair Stamp, and Dusclops, and then knocks out your only Regidrago V-Star, hits you with an Unfair Stamp, and it's like, okay, what are we really doing from there? We're going to have like no resources. So what I like instead is just, we got this Ogerpon in the active. We're going to go ahead, Nest Ball for Cleffa, retreat into it, maybe waste some cards. We got this Jamming Tower, that's pretty nice. And I guess we could like, nope, nothing else we could do. Just go ahead and Cleffa here. It's also very difficult for our opponent to actually punish this, right? So in order to actually do anything productive, they would need... Oops, looks like, where's the Dusclops? They would need this Dusclops, and they would need Candy Charizard, and they would, honestly, in my opinion, they also need Candy Pidgeot, or else we're going to be able to really punish them for not having a Pidgeot. And then they also need a Counter Catcher. If they don't have, and then they can like bring in whatever and pop this and kill it. If they don't have Candy Pidgey, Candy Charizard, Dusclops, Counter Catcher on turn 2, they're not really going to do anything relevant. Like if they kill the Cleffa, we don't care. If they go Rare Candy Pidgeot, like Instant Charge, we don't care. They could go like Rare Candy Charizard Pass, like whatever they do, as long as they don't have this like 7-card combo on the second turn of the game, we're going to be completely okay, especially if we throw this Jamming Tower out there. We're blocking Seal Stone, and I just feel really, really good about that. So in this spot, and in a lot of spots against Charizard on turn 2, just going to be using Cleffa. It's completely okay. We don't need to be aggressive versus these decks that aren't really good at being aggressive themselves. In our third puzzle here, we're up against Raging Bolt. Now, we went first, and then our Raging Bolt player was not the best, and they actually whiffed turn 1 attack. They whiffed the Switch Card, or in the Prime Catcher, and so they just ended up ending their turn with Radiant Greninja in the active, and we find ourselves in the spot on turn 2, where we're missing E-Switch. We have the attacker, right? We got Giratina V-Star in the discard here. but we don't have E-Switch. We do have access to a gusting effect here, which is very crucial, right? We can nest ball for the Iron Bundle here, bring up something on the bench for a 2-prize attack, but we would have to hit E-Switch off of our V-Star power. So in this spot, is this worth it to V-Star, or should you just do something else? Now, after watching the first two puzzles, you might have been in the mindset that you should never V-Star, but I do actually think it's worth it to V-Star against these aggro decks, specifically because they can't really punish you for having bad board stability at the end of the game, right? These decks play 0, maybe 1 Iono, which means A, they might not have it, and B, they definitely can't do it multiple times. So we can actually salvage an endgame where we don't have access to our V-Star power. Additionally, if you go up 2 prizes versus these turbo decks, right, Raging Bolt, Miraidon, Roaring Moon, Gouging Fire, any other like turbo 2-prize deck, you just go up 2 prizes, they really can't do anything. You can just start trading 2 prizers back and forth. You can get the Radzard involved for some efficient attacks later on. So basically in this spot, I would just rip my V-Star power, hopefully find E-Switch. I would probably nest ball for Iron Bundle first, just so we don't mill it and then have to use our super out on it. This will also thin a card from our deck, so we're a little more likely to hit that E-Switch. And then I would just flip my V-Star. Now, in this situation, if I prized multiple E-Switches, then I might not go for this. A, we're less likely to hit the E-Switch, and B, even once we hit the E-Switch, we need a follow-up, right? So we're going to bundle and kill the Squawk, probably, and then they're going to blow up our Drago. And on our next turn, we're going to need another Drago, and you can kind of see here with this hand, it is really, really awkward for us to actually get another Drago going. So if you decided to just not V-Star here, I actually wouldn't blame you, because our hand is kind of terrible. Like, setting up another, and you can't set up another attacker on the next turn, then you might as well have Cleffa on turn 1. I think another thing that might affect this decision is, like, if you have Goodra in the discard, I think Goodra is also a fantastic option. I mean, less so when your opponent already has 4 energies, but if you can initiate with Goodra, that's great, kind of protects your Regidrago a little bit. It's also a theme, like, in a lot of matchups. If you can initiate with Goodra, it's pretty good, protect your energies, help you either save your V-Star power or not get punished for flipping it aggressively. Additionally, on this follow-up turn, say we kill the Squawk, they blow up our Regidrago. You can just decide to Cleffa on this next turn instead, and it's like pretty much okay. If you end up whiffing the Regidrago V-Star response or the Radzard response, you can just Cleffa and then kind of give up the prize trade and try to navigate from there. But I really do value this chance at going up in the prize trade versus these turbo decks. All right, in our 4th puzzle, we have another turn 2 situation. This time, we're against Golden Go. We've gone first. We always get to go first because we're the best. And we're on our turn 2, and we have everything we need to attack, except our only attacker in the discard is Giratina V-Star, which is pretty terrible. Now, in this spot, you could flip your V-Star, try to find Dragapult, Hawlucha, something like that. I mean, we've got the Dragapult in hand. We've got the Ultra Ball in the discard, so maybe we could piece it together here. But in this spot, would you flip your V-Star, or would you just do something else, maybe attack with the Tina or something? So in this spot, I definitely think it's worth it to flip your V-Star for a couple reasons. First of all, we have a Regidrago V-Star stuck in the active, so we can't actually get into Cleffa. Now, I think if you had Ogerpon in the active and maybe like a Nustball to get Cleffa, this is a little bit more of a debate. But in this case, we are very committed to this Regidrago V-Star, and this is kind of a general principle of the deck as well. It's like in any game where you start Regidrago V, maybe not any game, but a lot of games where you start Regidrago V, you'll find yourself in these spots where on turn 2, you don't find everything you need, and you're kind of awkwardly like, do I V-Star, do I not? So starting Regidrago V is really, really bad. I would always start Ogerpon. over Regidrago, just so you're not committed to having it in the active and kind of needing to attack, right? But when you do end up in these situations, you are going to be flipping your V-Star power a lot, being aggressive. You don't want this Drago to just die for free and not get an attack off. So in this spot, I would flip my V-Star. I might play some E-switches first, at least one, in case I want to recover an E-switch with my V-Star power. So we could do something like this, and then we could just go ahead, flip our V-Star power. We're guaranteed to be able to bring back Ultra Ball. Ultra Ball can find us Hawlucha, and that'll find us our 2-prize play. If we mill our Hawlucha, it's kind of a disaster. We could recover it with our V-Star power, and then maybe just get like Earthen Vessel or like Ultra Ball for something else, and that's like okay. But ideally here, we V-Star, we get a clean V-Star, and then we bring back like Ultra Ball for Hawlucha, plus maybe E-Switch to keep setting up the Dragos. Now, I think this situation completely changes if you're not playing Hawlucha. I think, you know what, I'm really used to having this Hawlucha card, but I think you would just not V-Star. Maybe you would loss impact the Gimme Ghoul and just not V-Star. I'm not entirely sure about that, but it just seems like there's not really any upside to flipping V-Star here if you don't play the Hawlucha. Honestly, the spot just seems terrible if you don't play Hawlucha, but assuming you have a Hawlucha, that's how I would go about this. I would just go ahead, flip the V-Star power, go up 2 prizes, and then hopefully we can use a combination of this Regidrago V on the bench and a Radzard to close out for the final 4. I especially value flipping this V-Star against Golden Go, because when you take a 1-prizer, I mean, if you guys watched my recent tabletop video, the second Regidrago League, the board actually looked kind of exactly like this. I took this 1-prize KO. I think I used Pult to do it. And then something like this happened where my opponent just like set up multiple Golden Goes, had Fez down, and then used eSearch Pro, which I don't know where the eSearch Pro is, but used the eSearch Pro and just like blew up my Drago. And then I was just in a terrible spot. So just in general, I really value taking the first 2 prizes against Golden Go, because this is just like playing against Raging Bolt, but like actually even worse because they draw more cards. So don't want to find yourself in this spot. In our 5th puzzle here, it's a little more complicated, a lot of information going into this one, but it's a board state I've seen actually a couple times. So we're playing against Charizard. We went first, and on our 2nd turn of the game, we pulled off the Dragapult attack with our Regidrago V-Star, Phantom Dived, we sniped the Pidgey, and we knocked out some other basic like a Charmander, and we got our 2-prize play, which is exactly what we want to be doing. And then our opponent popped off. Sometimes you'll see really skilled / lucky Charizard players pull this off. Pretty nasty play, honestly. You rare candy your Charizard, you get 3 energies on your Radzard and the Defiance Band, and you can actually just blow up the Regidrago V-Star. This puts us in a very rough spot. Our Regidrago got blown up. That's obviously bad, and there's a 1-prize attacker that we like kind of have to deal with maybe in the active. But anyways, the question here is we find ourselves in this spot. We've used all of our abilities here. We've used our research, our Fez, and this is where we ended up. So do we flip our V-Star to try to do something better than, I don't know, like pass or like kill this Radzard, I guess? Or do we just chill? If we just chill, what do we do instead? If you're flipping the V-Star power, what are you hoping to do? So in this spot, I would definitely not flip my V-Star power. And now, if you were going to flip your V-Star power, I'm not sure exactly what you would be doing. Definitely, if you want to just like flip your V-Star power and kill this Radiant Charizard in any capacity, I think that's really bad. If you are flipping your V-Star power, I think it would be in hopes of finding Prime Catcher, right? You could like Prime Catcher the Rotom, maybe Goodra it, and I think that would be okay. You would like protect yourself from the Radzard. I don't love that. You could also like Kyurem, I guess, but V-Starring to Kyurem is a terrible idea, right? You could like Kyurem like Rotom Fez, maybe like kill Duskull or like hit the Radzard or something, and then try to pick up like some kind of 4-prize Kyurem. I don't think that's really good either. I would literally just Nest Ball for Cleffa here and use Cleffa. Maybe you could like use this E-Switch as well, I guess, and like do something like this, and then just like Cleffa, draw a bunch of cards. This is good for a couple of reasons. One, the opponent's Radiant Charizard can't attack. Even if it could attack, it can't knock out our Regidrago VSTAR anymore because the Defiance Band isn't active. Our opponent also needs to find their 5th Fire Energy if they want to attack, right? These Charizard decks play 5 Fire Energies and, well, they don't have a Pidgeot. They don't play any way to search the energy. I guess they could use Night Stretcher. But the other thing they need to do is to play Boss's Orders here. So they would have to, like, have Fire Energy Boss in hand, or, like, Fire Energy plus Countercatcher, and then they have to blow up the Duskull. And I think you're just going to be able to capitalize. So I think the most likely outcome here, when you use Cleffa, you Cleffa, and they do nothing. They instant charge. Maybe they, like, set up another Charmander or something. Maybe they get a 5th Fire Energy down. And then on the next turn, you just, like, boss in Rotom, hit it with Goodra, and pretty much win the game. You still have your V-Star power. Surely you can find your last 2 prizes somehow. But let's say they are the greatest player of all time. Let's say they hit everything. The Fire Energy is prized. Oh, there's Night Stretcher. Okay, so they retreat their Radzard. They bring in their Charizard. They bring back this Fire Energy. And they also have Boss somehow. Why not? And they blow up your Regidrago V-Star. I still think that you can win this game. And so what you're going to do in a spot like this, it might have been a nice idea to split up those energies so we don't get so blown out here, but what you're going to want to do here, and there's a couple things you can do. The first thing, overall, our goal is going to be to take no prizes and then take some kind of 4 prize turn on the next turn. So this Dusclops kind of changes the dynamic here. If this Dusclops isn't here, what you can go for is, like, Loss Impact into the Charizard, and then on the next turn, like, bring up Rotom, Phantom Dive, kill the Charizard, and that's, like, super optimal. But the other thing you can go for here is just, like, Goodra the Fez, I think, is pretty good here. So, I mean, obviously with this hand, it's going to be very, very difficult to pull off. But generally, what we're going to be going for is something like this. We still have our V-Star power, right? So that can kind of help us make this happen. We can flip our V-Star, use Prime Catcher, bring up probably the Fez, sounds good to me. We could play an Iono, and then we can Goodra this Fez. And then on the following turn, we have a couple options. Our opponent is probably actually not even going to retreat this Fez, so we could just Goodra again. I don't like that, though. On the next turn, you could honestly just, like, retreat into Cleffa if they don't do anything. You could Boss, bring up the Rotom, take a 4 prize with Phantom Dive. You could use Halucha to kill this, and, like, Ogerpon to kill Charizard maybe if you need to for some reason. There's a couple different kind of 4 prize scams you can do at the end here. And the only way you get punished here is if somehow, after drawing their only Fire Energy and a Boss's Orders, we're going to Iono them, and now they need to draw, again, their only Fire Energy. Like, I guess it's technically possible with Night Stretcher to retreat, and then also Boss's Orders again. So basically you only get punished in this situation if they have Fire Energy Boss, when they have no search and, like, no cards. It's, like, basically impossible. So yeah, I think basically the lesson here to be learned is that when your opponent goes for these really, like, overextending plays, especially with the Radzard, but this is true in a lot of matchups, especially when your opponent uses 1-prizers. Like, you don't want to be killing these 1-prizers. There are opportunities, not only on turn 2, to just go ahead, use Cleffa, kind of stall for a turn. They don't really want to kill the Cleffa, and then on your next turn, you can kind of reinitiate the prize trade. And if they pop off, you still can win the game, because when they pop off like that, a lot of times they're going to overextend, they're going to have weaknesses on their board, and you're going to be able to exploit them. Before we get into our 6th and final puzzle, if you made it this far in the video, you must be enjoying it, so it'd mean a lot to me if you could leave a like on the video and subscribe to my channel. Helps me continue to make these videos for you guys. But in this last one, we have a very, very complicated situation. We're playing Regidrago Mirror, and essentially what's happened up to this point, we did the first attack, we used Goodra into our opponent's Regidrago, and then they responded by bringing up our Squawkabilly, knocking it out with Phantom Dive. You can see we've got some damage on our board. we've used a lot of resources here. We're down a lot of E-switches. We're down our Prime Catcher as well, but we do have access to all of our attackers here. And so the question here is, it's very open-ended. We've got our 10-card hand because we played Research, and then we used Flip the Script. We've also activated both of our Ogre Pawns, and we find ourselves in the spot. Here's a look at our deck, which is also, I mean, exceptionally relevant. And so the question here is, do you V-Star? If you V-Star, what are you hoping to do with that? Or do you save the V-Star and do something else? Really open-ended here. I wanted to make a very complicated, hard puzzle at the end here for all the die-hard Regidrago players to solve. I think it's a lot of fun. And I'll let you guys pause the video here. I'll pull up the contents of the deck and the discard, and you guys can try to come up with your solution. So in this position, there's almost a dizzying amount of options, and I'm going to start by letting you guys know that I do want to flip my V-Star here for a somewhat of a checkmate situation. I think this is a checkmate, but I wouldn't be surprised if someone told me in the comments, oh, it's actually not a checkmate because of this. But anyways, what I'm going to suggest here is that we flip our V-Star. And what we're going to do with that is we're going to Phantom Dive the Regidrago V-Star on the bench. And we're going to put some damage onto Squawkabilly. And what we're doing with this is setting up for a 6-prize Kyurem play on the following turn. But in order to set up that play, we need to recover Prime Catcher. So what I'm going to suggest here, and what I think the most optimal way of doing this is we can go like Ultra Ball, something like this. We can thin out this Drago V-Star. We can Vessel it away, get some energies. We can Nest Ball. And the key part of this is that we're going to be using Mew EX. Then we're going to put down some energies, maybe E-switch onto it. And we're going to go ahead and flip our V-Star power here. Did I actually... Oh, I feel like I didn't discard enough cards off that Ultra Ball. Oops. I think I needed to discard that as well. We're going to flip our V-Star. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I think this was actually a pretty irrelevant V-Star. We're going to go ahead, recover Prime Catcher plus E-switch. E-switch onto the Mew EX. Use Prime Catcher to bring up the other Regidrago. Now, you could attack with Mew EX or Regidrago here. I don't think it really matters. I think I'll prefer attacking... Actually, I think I'll prefer attacking with the Regidrago V-Star. And then... I think that's actually pretty much it. It'd be nice to thin out one more card. We could maybe consider Super Rodding, like a Grass Energy or something. Actually, just don't think that's necessary. And so then the idea here is we're going to go ahead, use Pult, put some damage on the Squawk. And no matter what our opponent does here, we can just go for a 6-prize turn on the following turn. Some potential counterplay ideas they could have. They could like Goodra, right? That would block our 6-prize Kyurem. So maybe they like Goodra this Mew and play Iono. The thing is, we have 5 cards, 3 in the deck. That's a total of 8. We'll be drawing 6 off Iono, 7 for turn, and we've got a Grass Energy, so we can Teal Dance, draw all 8. And in those 8 cards, there's going to be a Boss's Orders. There's going to be a Grass Energy. So if they try to stall anything, we can retreat. If they try to use Goodra, we can boss around it. And then no matter what, on the next turn, we're going to be able to Kyurem for 6 prizes. Let me know if you guys solved that down in the comment section down below. I spent a lot of time putting together this last puzzle. I thought it was really, really cool. And other than that, I'll just see you guys in the next video.